Today we've got a great revenge story that led to somebody not getting their dream job. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, I let a toddler shoplift because I hate my boss. I've posted here before on my job. I give customers extra change now and again. This is a new one though. I had a mother with 4 kids come through my line. The youngest was about 2. She said he could have a candy bar and told him to put it on the belt. I rang everything up. Apparently, the little dude still has an internalized object permanence and grabbed the same bar from the display. Mom wasn't watching, but I was. I guess she thought one of the other kids gave the bar to the little dude because she picked him up and carried him out, candy bar in hand. He waved bye. I waved bye back. No one came back later to return the bar or pay for it. I know because I was there for another 4 hours and I didn't see dink. Corporate treats us like crap so they can afford a missing candy bar. Mom probably didn't notice a second bar either. I suppose another way you could probably go about this is it actually in OP's job description to, I guess if this toddler is stealing, to call them out and try to recover the product? Especially considering it's just a toddler, I think I'd be in the same boat as OP. Amateur Biotic commented, I think our corporate overlords can deal with that. I work at Target. One of our main sources of profit is cutting workers' hours. None of us are guaranteed hours. I've worked here for almost 2 years. It's on record that I want 40 hours and that I'm available 24/7. I will get 35-hour weeks for 4 weeks in a row and then, without warning, it'll go down to 22 hours. For 2-3 weeks in a row, I don't get more hours unless I beg for them. I have to beg for consistent minimum wage hours. I'm sure all retailers do this, but they cut a department's hours over and over again to see just how few hours they can run that department. I used to give excellent customer service. I really like helping people. Now I have to be an unhelpful jerk that runs the other way when you say excuse me because I have to do the work of 3 people. If I don't cut every single corner I can, I'm seen as too slow of a worker. It used to be that when I see things on the floor that fell or were knocked off the shelf, I would pick them up. Now I walk right past them. Now when you ask if we have more of something in the back, I lie and say we don't. We probably don't, because I do not have time to check. If they would just give us enough hours, we'd have everything managed so that the shelves were always full. But those days are long, long gone. To the customers I am rude to, I am truly sorry, it has to be this way. NSFW Milk and Pies added, I went to Target to buy something that it showed was definitely available online, couldn't find it anywhere, went to customer service, and after about an hour, someone was able to bring it in from the back for me. I understand that everyone is understaffed and overworked. I don't hold it against the employees of that Target that it took so long to get what I needed. I just don't shop at Target anymore. Having a well-staffed store, or hotel, or hospital, or restaurant will bring in more customers, but corporations don't care about that. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy awesome stories of revenge, it would be amazing if you left a like or left a review if you're listening to my podcast. That said, our next story is helping my friend's custody battle. I'm not sure if this is actually petty revenge, straight up revenge, or just justice. So my friend went through a nasty divorce and he lost a lot. Anyhow, he was in a very bad custody battle for his daughter. The judge was very biased. My friend showed pictures of her place with weed and other drug paraphernalia on her coffee table when he picked his daughter up during the court case. The judge told him and his crappy lawyer at the time he had no right to take pictures in her house. His crappy lawyer said nothing, and he got reprimanded for his outburst. After he told myself and other friends of this, we all pooled money together to get him a better lawyer. That lawyer petitioned for another judge. Here's where my petty revenge came in. I have a coworker who is dirty as heck. He sees escorts all the time and brags about them at work. He shows pictures and videos of all the escorts he sees. My coworker has hidden cameras all over his apartment. I normally don't care about my coworker's escapades, but one day, my coworker kept bothering me about his new super hot escort, so I cave and look at his new video. Lo and behold, it's my friend's ex. I tell my coworker I'd like a copy of the video. He had no shame and sent it to me. I forwarded it to my friend, but his new lawyer says it's just a sex video with no context. They need proof of her escorting. So I went back to my coworker and asked how we met her, and he gave me her Leo List ad. My friend's lawyer said he needed more because anyone can post an ad. So, through myself and other friends, we pooled enough money for a PI. It took 2 months, but we got enough evidence of her escorting and dealing drugs with her crappy new boyfriend. He has full custody now and she's in jail, not for escorting or dealing, but for child abuse and neglect. This is one of those stories that I hear and I'm desperately trying to think of like a positive to pull from this, but it just feels like one of those situations you look to your left and you see something that's just rough, and then you look to your right and it's just more of the same but with different wrapping paper. I guess the main takeaway is I hope the kid is in a much better situation now. Locked in a Room commented, "Wonder if new guy got her hooked on drugs and was pimping her out. It happens a lot more than people realize." Our next story is, "My aunt and cousin's lives are going up in flames, and I'm making popcorn." My 21-year-old female grandparents started their own business when they were younger. They worked hard until they were successful. Since then, all of their children and their spouses have worked there. My mother left after about 5 or so years. My uncle left after about 5 or so years, but my aunt, the eldest of the three, never did. My grandparents bought 2 houses way back when it was still affordable, and my aunt, my uncle, and 2 cousins, 21-year-old female and 26-year-old male, all live in one, while my grandparents live in the other. For the past 30 or 35 years, my aunt has been living off of everything my grandparents built. It's nepotism, and I'll gladly admit it. The only time she and my uncle and any of my cousins talk to my grandparents is when they want money. Recently, my grandparents decided to retire, so they're selling the business. The same business that my aunt and uncle thought they would inherit. The same business that is the reason they've been living rent-free for almost 30 years. The same business that she held over our heads all these years. I love my aunt and cousins, but I can see the nepotism. They always expect everything without any hard work. The only thing they see is injustice being done upon them, not the fact that, for the first time in decades, our grandparents will be able to breathe and relax. They always held their money over us and acted as our superiors. We were given the same money, we just didn't touch ours because we don't see it as our money. We didn't do anything to earn it yet. Now they're probably going to go broke and lose everything, and I'm here for it. Reap what you sow, self-righteous idiots. I mean, it certainly is nice when you have a free ride and you don't really have to worry about much, but you can't assume that your free ride is just gonna last forever. OP's absolutely right that you've got to hedge your bets against the chances that you'll just inherit enough money to survive off of for the rest of your life. And not just you, but all of your other relatives that are also on this free ride. Line Crabbing commented, "When they will come around and ask you to fund their lifestyle, borrowing, you can either say no or ask them for a guarantee letter from their bank that their bank will cover your personal loan." A nicer way of saying no. This next story is Jolly Rancher Revenge. I went to a conservative Baptist college in the 1990s. My parents thought it would make me ladylike. Spoiler, it did not. The girl rooming next to me, Juliet, was awful, blasting music all hours of the night, degrading people for their clothing choices, go to the restroom with the door open to talk with people, etc. Here's the scene. We had 6 shower stalls, 3 on each side. The first one on the left was Juliet's shower. She would leave her watermelon-scented stuff scattered about and throw a fit if someone was in there. The scent is important. Eventually, the rest of the 17 girls avoided that stall just to not hear her bench in the mornings. One Saturday night, I decided to take revenge. I went into her shower stall, unscrewed the shower head, and inserted a watermelon Jolly Rancher hard candy. This way, as she showered, it would coat her long blonde hair and skin with a thin candy coating. The next morning, I planted myself in the bathroom to get ready for church just as Juliet started to shower. The muttering turned to shrieking fairly quickly, and I stood there silently laughing. After 15 minutes, she stalked out of the shower with hot pink towel lint stuck in her hair, on her face, everywhere. Most of the girls were in the bathroom watching her stalk her way out of the room. Later that day, while others were at lunch, I snuck back in the shower, took out the candy, which was more than half gone, and enjoyed the glee emanating from the rest of the girls on my floor. Juliet never used that shower again, and didn't appropriate any other one. I know it's not quite the same thing because this is more of a dorm room type situation, but it kind of makes me think of that saying where you don't truly know someone until you live with them. I'm curious if in everyday goings removed from a situation like this, you might feel a little bit more differently about her. Illuminatus Prime commented, "Wow, flashback to college. We nerds were always getting picked on by the jocks, so we pulled something similar in the team shower right before the big game. The coach was livid and promised to get the hooligans and vandals rounded up and expelled from the school and blacklisted from every university forever, but at least his team smelled pretty. P.S. no one was ever caught. This next story is Revenge on Store Manager. I got moved to a new store as a part of a promotion years ago, and I was already pretty nervous. New store, first time as department manager, and unfortunately for me, the former department manager had really crapped the bed in every way possible. The store manager, Marlene, immediately started micromanaging me. She had me on scheduled breaks and just rode me for everything in some weird, "Well, your predecessor was always sneaking off for cigarettes, so I'm sure you are too," bull crap. I had to find her and tell her I was going on break. It's still one of the most frustrating things I've ever had a manager do to me. A couple months into me being at that store, I found out that my grandma was being taken off life support that afternoon. I was gutted. And luckily, my assistant was there. We usually worked alone, so she comforted me and we worked out the schedule so I could go to the funeral. I went to find my manager to ask her about our bereavement leave, knocked on her door and leaned in. "Excuse me, Marlene." Marlene whips around in her chair. "I am on the phone." I say sorry. I found one of the assistant managers who helped me enter it onto the scheduling software and decided I needed to go for a break to go cry somewhere. Marlene saw me and yelled at me to get into her office. As soon as I got in there, she started yelling at me for interrupting her earlier. I apologized again and said since she had her back to the door, I didn't see the phone. She said, "Well, what was so important?" I really can't put into words the level of contempt this woman was able to load into a single word. I said, they took my grandmother off life support today, and I just wanted to ask about the bereavement leave. I asked the assistant about it. It's all taken care of." She replies, "You can't just barge into the office, you know." I would have said yes if you'd knocked first and waited. Work on your presentation next time. It's probably been 5 years, but I swear to God, I'm still stunned at that line when I think about it. She yelled at me for a little longer before snapping, "I'm sorry about your grandma." I managed to make it out of her office before I started crying. A few weeks after the funeral, our district manager was touring the stores and asked me how I was liking it at the new store. I cheerfully asked him if I could speak to him in my back office. He agreed, and Marlene started to walk with us. I looked her dead in the eye and cheerfully said, "No, just him." Once we were in the back room, he asked what was going on, and I started crying as I told him. There were some real tears. My grandma was freaking awesome and I still miss her. But god dang, I was wrenching up every freaking bad thing that had happened to me. My first girlfriend breaking my heart, my cat dying when I was 12, my parents' divorce, all just to bolster my performance. Men can't handle women crying. I saw this grown man panic. I relayed the story exactly as it happened, down to the "work on your presentation." His jaw hit the freaking floor at that one. He told me he would take care of it, and as I followed him out of the office, Marlene looked like she was about to puke. I don't remember how long they were in her office for, but it wasn't a quick meeting, and she came over to give me a very begrudging apology with all the sincerity of a petulant child being forced to apologize by their parent. This woman is a legend in the company. She retired a few years ago, and even at different stores, people heard how evil she was. It might be a small victory, but I'll take the W. I think the most unbelievable part of the story is the district manager actually did do something about it. That the district manager actually did care about the worker who was being treated so poorly. I mean, Marlene being the person they are ending up in that position, it wouldn't have surprised me to find out the district manager was the Marlene to Marlene's Marlene. Ready Competition 66 commented, "Some people are only able to find happiness by making others miserable. I had a manager like that. She constantly sought ways to upset the people who worked for her and even those who didn't. When the VP of engineering left the company, they hired someone else to become director of our group. The position she'd been telling herself was hers all along. But she'd ticked in the Wheaties of far too many people, including executive management and sales. The new manager bent over backwards trying to find a way to get her to calm down with the situation. He was professional with her, but very willing to criticize. She did not take that well. Being told it was her fault was like pouring gasoline on the fire, no matter how deserved. I don't know the details because the incident happened long after I started working from home full-time. She was fired immediately. Never mind all the institutional knowledge she had of client business practices. Some prices are just too high. Our next story is, don't hold the lift, Okay, then I'll waste your time. This happened just now as I was getting home. It was raining and I had no umbrella, so I want to get back to my house to dry off. Well, a delivery guy beat me inside the building and managed to be 5 seconds ahead of me and stepped into the elevator and pressed the close door button, knowing that I was right behind him, pretty much closing the doors in my face. So there I stood, wet, tired, and now mildly angry. That's when I decided that going home can wait. Petty revenge was more important. If I had to wait for the elevator, then so does he. I noticed he got off on the 24th floor, so I called the elevator back and stepped inside. I pressed all the buttons on the way up, I got off on my floor and waited for it to inevitably stop on the 24th floor. Then, knowing he was on his way down, I called the elevator so it would stop one more time. I don't care that I wasted some more of my time, but knowing that I wasted his in return gave me a little satisfaction. Honestly, it doesn't even surprise me that the delivery guy would do this, not because it's not surprising that a delivery guy would be a jerk, but because it feels like I only hear about delivery people being under the most intense pressure to get the job done 5 minutes ago. So to hear this guy go in there and have to go in this elevator and immediately want to close the door and just shoot right up to that floor, is it really that much of a shock when the voice in their head is saying, "Go, go, go"? Buzz13094 commented, "Sometimes it's not about time wasted on your end, and more about the revenge that comes. I would do the same thing, but I would have hit the button as soon as the door shut to see if it stopped the elevator from leaving in the first place. Sometimes it does." OP responded saying, "Exactly. I call it time well spent. Also, that method of pressing the button has worked in the past, but I was just a bit too far to reach the button before the doors closed." Our next story is used connections to have someone scolded. This happened a few months ago, but I was reminded now. So I was 2 months in the job hunt, and I was getting crazy off the rejections I was getting. There are companies I want to work at, but they weren't advertising for the position I wanted. I decided to try out a different method. I read online that some jobs are not advertised, but they will still hire due to referrals, internal hiring, or due to career fairs. There was a restaurant company I wanted to work at. The thing is, I don't know if there was a data-related position there. I do have my mom's networks there. She's friends with the current CEO, but I kind of feel embarrassed because I want to try building a connection myself. And the CEO is involved, so things might get out of control. I knew a friend of a friend who worked there. He doesn't work there now, but he did. I asked the guy if such a position exists, and he said yes. There's a data analyst position, and he gave me the name of the hiring manager. I hope he's still the hiring manager though. I resigned in December. That's when I upgraded LinkedIn to Premium for a 1-month trial and tried messaging hiring managers. That company was my first try. I composed my message saying, "Good morning, my name is so-and-so and I would like to know if you have a data analyst position and if you're hiring. Here's my CV and I hope you have the chance to read it." I kept it short and simple. However, he replied to me a day later and said this: "Good morning, sir, blah blah blah. What you're doing is very rude and unprofessional. If we are hiring, we will post it online. Doing this makes you sound desperate, and these are the people who don't deserve to work here. Yes, we have the data analyst position, and no, we are not hiring. So don't message me or any hiring managers because if they are hiring, they will post it. Goodbye." He berated me for asking a question? What did I do to annoy him? I was just asking if this position was available. He could have said, "Hi, we currently don't have any open positions, so try when it is available next time," or something else, but he had to call me rude and desperate. Thankfully, I had my mom's connections with the CEO. No, I'm not going to use it to force my way into getting a job there. That would be very spoiled. Instead, I told my mom about what I did. She did agree that if they were hiring, they would post it, but disagreed with his response. The response seemed very unprofessional. She told the CEO about it, and what happened next was 2 days later, the hiring manager messaged me and apologized for his behavior. He told me he is sorry, but I should really not message hiring managers if there's a job opening if there is nothing advertised. Whatever, I bet he's acting like that because he got scolded but will still act like that to his subordinates. I'm not gonna work there if he's still there. Well, now I got a job interview offer with the company from the guy. He also listed the other things about the job like shift and setup. I decided to decline. To be honest, I'm happy where I am now. Yes, this was a dream job offer, but the benefits I'm having are good. This job that I got an interview offer has a 9-to-6 schedule, which I do not want. On-site setup, mine is hybrid, is quite distant, and the pay is the same. It's just that also I don't want to work under him. I don't know how he's like, and the response from a few months ago was really unprofessional. I mean, obviously, when a person has an attitude like that, saying it wouldn't actually mean anything to the person. They're just going to brush it off with the same arrogance they treat just about anything else with. But I would still want to try to get some kind of satisfaction and not just declining, but saying respectfully, I don't want to work under you after the way you treated me. Does that potentially reflect bad on you? Does it potentially burn bridges for you if it's like spread around? I mean, are they actually going to care enough to do that anyways? NoServe3491 commented, missing the days one could walk in, hand your CV to a person, and be hired that way. Our next story is, annoying Trickster gets tricked. Years ago, I had a coworker that liked to play small practical jokes on everyone. They were usually harmless, like messing with people's desk items or chair positions, but often enough to be annoying, particularly in a high-stress work environment. One day they left their computer unlocked and walked away for a while, a big no-no for security purposes, so I took the opportunity to get my revenge. Their surname was Pike, so I updated their very detailed and curated email signature to Poke, and then locked the computer. Around 2 months later, I hear yelling from their office demanding to know who messed with their computer and changed their name. I had a good laugh knowing they sent hundreds of emails with the wrong name and never noticed. To be fair, once you set up your auto signature on your email and you've had it for a while, you don't really think to check it. It doesn't surprise me that way down the line they finally look at some sent message and scroll down and finally have the eye to notice, Poke? Imagine that slight panic and then they're flipping through hundreds of old sent emails and it's just Poke, Poke, Poke. What happened? I didn't set my name to Poke. Almanac Porch Chair commented, at my software job at a major bank, it was a big no-no to leave your computer unlocked. Though we had no access to any real financial data, for years, if anybody noticed an unlocked screen, they would send an email from that computer saying that that person will bring donuts for everybody the next morning. I was so surprised that this was the standard joke, but actually most people enjoyed it. Not really revenge, but definitely petty. OP responded saying, Poke would do something similar too if they caught someone's computer unlocked, which gave me the unofficial signal that it was okay to mess with their computer. Our next story is, some classmate tried to ruin my image, so I took away most of her friends and got her to fail her finals. This story starts off 3 years ago, back when I befriended a classmate. She was fun to be around and we went to the gym together for a while. Let's call her Mia. For context, she would always call me, ask me to walk her to and from school, insisted we go to gym together, and would always hug me for any reason there was. Our friendship ended abruptly around 2 months later. After that, she tried to convince people I was a creep immediately after. She would say I would always try to hug her, that I told her to cheat on her boyfriend, even though she didn't have a boyfriend, or that I would keep calling her. Of course, all was quickly put down as I pointed out all the messages and call logs show the opposite. From that point on, we remained cold for the year, till the start of 2023. I passed by on New Year's Eve to wish a Happy New Year to her adoptive parents, knowing she was at a party. She took this chance to thank me and start to talk to me again. She excused what she did last year and shifted blame on some other classmate that convinced her to do it. This whole Disney plot ended in just about 2 weeks. She stopped talking to me and tried telling people I'm a Satanist. By this time, I mostly had enough. Now, one thing you should know about Mia is that she is a heavy gossiper. She talks anything about anyone, so it wasn't hard for me to start picking at her friend group, taking people one by one and making sure they stopped talking to her. The friend group was left at 4 of her closest friends. No one else would interact more than a hello or a question. This would have been enough for me, but no. She tried to befriend me again, acting like nothing happened, acting like she changed. I knew she didn't, but I accepted the offer. I started talking to one of her close friends, Anna. I never talked to Anna before, outside some random chit-chat, but turns out we got a lot in common. I would text a lot with her, till one day, Mia decided she had enough of being a sane person, took Anna's phone, and started cursing me and telling me to stop talking to Anna. Anna didn't take that to a liking and stopped talking to her. That was also my final straw. I kept being friendly to Mia, knowing that we have alphabetically close first names, so we'll end up in the same room for the finals. 30 minutes before the exams, we were allowed to chat and stuff, so I would be there with her, answering every question she had, making sure that with that knowledge, she would get 0 points. This worked like a charm. She failed 2 out of 3 exams, forcing her to retake them in August. After the final exams, I cut contact with her completely. All I found out comes from one of her last friends. Hopefully, she fails the next turn of exams too. One of the most classic stories is bullies being bullies and then somehow expecting you to turn around and actually help them. You think the one actual moment that you make yourself completely vulnerable to the person you've picked on and tried to paint as this weird creep isn't going to immediately take that chance to try to get revenge? Our next story is send a petty bill, expect petty payment. This one happened to my neighbor. We got a new ISP in the building, so everyone decided to cancel Comcast. Another fun story, which may or may not belong in r/petty revenge. Of course, Comcast made this as difficult as possible for everyone, and tried a few nasty tricks to try and keep us as customers, but I digress. One of my neighbors somehow ended up with a final bill for 4 cents, which of course he showed me after a night out drinking. He jokingly mentioned that he was going to pay the thing in pennies. But I came up with a better solution, send a nickel. So he did. For the next 3 years, he got a monthly statement in the mail from the company showing that he had a 1-cent credit. Eventually they stopped, but we had a good laugh every time one of those showed up. I hear stories about this all the time about Comcast making it extremely difficult to cancel, and I guess I just gotta say I feel pretty fortunate because there was a situation in the last few years where I did make a switch to a different provider and canceled Comcast, and I said, listen, I've already got a contract with a new company, and they said, okay, just send your stuff back, see ya. Anxious Fairy 911 commented, my mom once got a bill for $0.00. It was for a utility or credit card and it was around 30 years ago. Well, she didn't know anything, so she didn't pay it. They kept hounding her for it and threatened to report it on her credit. She had several arguments over the phone about it because the customer service people couldn't help her and couldn't take it off. She finally got helpful advice to write a check for $0.00 and it worked. It was ridiculous and my mom complained about the stamp she had to pay for, but it was finally fixed. Can you imagine having a big red mark on your credit for owing nothing? OP responded saying, my local city did that to me over a parking ticket. I got a parking ticket dismissed, parked in front of a fire hydrant, but my car was stolen at the time, but they reported the ticket as unpaid to the state, which blocked me from renewing my registration. Took me a month to get it straightened out because the city wouldn't let me pay a $0 ticket, wouldn't give me proof of payment, and claimed there was no issue, while the state demanded official paperwork from the city proving that I had resolved the issue. In the meantime, I racked up around 8 more parking tickets for failure to display valid registration. Bureaucracy is nuts. This next story is, cheat on me? Okay, so much for that dream job. Years ago, I was in the early stages of dating my ex, M. Now, M was going to school for computer science at the time. This was his 2nd degree, now at a different school with a gap in between. He originally went to school for archaeology, but struggled to find a job in his field. We worked together at an answering service, and it was a really crappy job that we both hated. We circled each other for a few years as friends, and then finally made the physical jump and started dating. I personally don't like to share my partner. No judgment for those who do, but it's not for me. M was aware of this since we had talked about it a lot and he was around when a previous ex cheated on me. He told me he was going to New York City for the weekend to hang out with some archaeology friends from school that were visiting from the UK. I have one relationship rule that is unbreakable. You can do almost anything that you want to, but don't lie to me. If I find out after that something happened, that is the line you just can't cross. When he got back, he looked exceptionally guilty, so when I asked him about it, he admitted that friends was actually only one friend who he cheated on me with. We still had to work together, so my response was, well, that sucks and is a deal breaker for me, but we can go back to being friends. And I did actually mean it. M and the UK girl start a long-distance relationship. M starts making a plan to build a life with this girl, which of course means he needs to find another job. My mom at the time is the VP of technical support for a software company with several job openings. As we've been friends for years, he knows my mom well, so if he applied, it was almost a guarantee that he gets the job. Now, I know at this time that one of those positions is earmarked to be trained in the US office, then sent to the new UK support office the company is trying to open. I suggest to M that he apply at my mom's employer, but I don't divulge that there's a UK plan in place for one of them. My thought was that if he got hired, that would be a thing he could push for, but I wanted him to get the job for himself, not for the girl. M is still my friend, and let's face it, I'm not really a fan of the girl at this point, so while I don't want to help them, I do want him to be happy. In one of the classic blunders, he chooses not to apply for the job. About 6 months later, they break up because, wow, she cheated on him with someone local. At this point, M has just finished his degree and decides to forward his resume to my mom and gets the job. About a week after getting hired, he mentioned to my mom about the girl and that he was trying to move over there to be with her. She replies, "Pity you didn't apply sooner. We were looking to fill a UK position with someone from here." It was at that moment he knew that not only was I trying to help, but that I left out a key piece of information about the posting. We were friends for many more years until life took us in different directions, but every drunk night he loved to bring up how I ruined his life and cost him his dream job. My response was always the same, "Well, you started it when you lied." It goes without saying, but obviously OP's got nothing to feel bad about here. OP was way more friendly and way more helpful than I feel like a majority of people would be. Like, I'm honestly surprised at how open-minded OP is to other people having an open relationship, but also how open-minded they are despite the fact that they said they don't want an open relationship. I mean, how can you say you don't want an open relationship and then turn around and say you can do almost anything that you want to, but just don't lie? It sounds to me like M had a great situation going on for them and they screwed themselves over multiple times. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another awesome revenge story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.